Before Caitlin Clark, Indiana Fever coach Stephanie White wore Mo. 22, and sold out gyms. On a cold January night in 1995, the fire marshal walked into the gymnasium at Fountain Central High School, took a look around with a scowl on his face, and mumbled something about a possible code violation. The gym was raucous, rowdy and loud, and it was absolutely packed. People were sitting in the aisles, standing shoulder to shoulder in the bleachers. Folding chairs had been brought in and set up 2 deep on the sidelines. There were people hanging from the chandeliers, said Gary Hart, Seeger High's athletic director at the time. There was a line of people lined up all the way out to the highway, waiting outside to get in to see that game. It was a full house. Inside the gym, the fire marshal walked around a little bit longer to survey the scene, then turned to the person standing next to him and asked, "Where can I sit?" Stephanie White was about to break the Indiana girls' high school basketball career scoring record. Everyone, it seemed, wanted to see the Seeger senior phenom score her 2,617th point in the game against Turkey Run to topple the record Charleston's Abby Conklin had set 2 years before. According to the official schedule, the game was supposed to be played at Turkey Run, but that gym was tiny. Just a few hundred people would have been able to witness White make Indiana basketball history. Hart, who had coached White as a freshman at Seeger, negotiated to move the game to a bigger venue. He even reached out to Purdue to see if Mackey Arena was available. It happened at the line. White scored her record-breaking 2,617th point on a free throw with 1 second left in the first half and Seeger leading 41-17. A timeout was taken as the crowd roared. This was a huge moment. Even the Turkey Run fans couldn't help but cheer for their opponent's greatness. White leaned down, put her hands on her knees and held back tears. When she returned to the line for her second free throw, White missed the basket. She was so ticked off, said Diane Hearn, who was White's volleyball coach at Seeger. She said, "I lost focus." She was so mad at herself. Steph was always so competitive, so devoted to her sport, so incredibly hard-working that she never really gave herself a moment to step back and say, "Look what I did." White wasn't thinking about breaking the record that night nearly 30 years ago. That's not what great athletes do in the middle of a game, said Lynn Dunn, a mentor to White and her former coach. That wasn't what mattered to her. She was thinking about how she missed the free throw. That's who she is, Dunn said. And some of those traits are similar to the traits that Caitlin Clark has. That competitiveness, that investment in her game, that high basketball IQ, they're very similar like that. There is a lot of Caitlin Clark in Stephanie White, the Indiana Fever's new head coach. Or perhaps it should be the other way around. There is a lot of Stephanie White in the Fever's star player Caitlin Clark. After all, long before Clark was rocking the world of women's sports on the court, White was doing it on a much smaller scale, without the glitz of social media, showing those who were watching that women's basketball could be great. I think we all know how good of a basketball mind she is, but also how much of a legend she is in Indiana, Clark told IndyStar last week. "I think that's really cool. She wore basketballs out. You know, the signs came early. The first time Dunn met the little girl who would become her future player. White was attending a summer camp at Purdue, even though she wasn't old enough to be there. Steph was 8, and I remember us deciding, oh hey, let's just put down that she's 10, said Dunn, who later coached White at Purdue, and with the Fever, she was as good or better than most of the 10 and 12-year-olds. That would be the first time that I saw her and realized how gifted she was, how smart she was as a player. In 5th grade, White played up on the 6th grade team at her elementary school. Steph was the best player on the floor, said Hart. I don't say that to put down the other kids, but she was a special kid from the get-go. Just like Clark, who, by the time she was in 3rd grade, was playing basketball on the boys' team. Not only that, but she was playing up a year. Jill Westholm's son was one of those boys a year older than Clark at St. Francis of Assisi Catholic School in Des Moines, Iowa. Honestly, I was kind of like, okay, I have to see this. Why is she playing against the boys? Said Westholm, who taught Clark in 6th grade math and science. And when I saw her, I was like, yep, this is where she belongs, with the boys, playing up a year. People in Iowa started talking about this Clark girl. 22 years earlier, people in Indiana were talking about this White girl. By the time White was at Seeger Junior High, she was a household name.